Okay, nutrition care process, intervention, monitoring, and evaluation. So the intervention part is really what you're going to do to help the patient fix their nutritional problem. So in the intervention piece, you'll be talking about what you are going to do. Perhaps you're going to coordinate care with another member of the medical team. Maybe you're going to recommend a swallowing evaluation. Maybe you're going to recommend some intervention by the social worker. Maybe this is somebody who needs Meals on Wheels, so on and so forth. Or you're going to have the patient do something, hopefully, that will help with their nutritional problem. You really want to address behaviors that the patient is engaging in that may or may not be helpful for them. You'll look at risk factors, including some of those biological factors that we've talked about, as well as their environment. So are they set up for success, or are there problems in their general home environment that might make addressing their nutritional problems more difficult? When you've assessed your patient and you're developing your nutritional diagnoses, you may come across people who are very, very critically ill. They have a lot of stuff going on, and the temptation to write a bunch of diagnoses is really it's intense. But what you want to do is pick 2 or 3 diagnoses that are the most important, and sometimes maybe there's only one, but 2 or 3 that will really help you sort of maximize your effort. And I always try to think of which one of their nutritional problems may kill them first and start with that one. So what's the most important one that you want to address? When you write the nutrition prescription in this intervention piece, you're going to specify the diet that you would like the patient to follow, how much energy, how many calories should that diet provide, and any other special considerations that might be important. So are there specific foods or nutrients that they should watch out for or be sure to focus on? Maybe they need a change in the diet texture, maybe they need feeding help, so lots of things that could go here. And then measurable goals for the patient. So again, we get back to this idea of numbers. So our goal, after we put them on a soft diet, is that they're going to consume more than 75% of their meals, or more than 80%, or whatever you deem appropriate. Another option, if you remember from our patient Jo, we want to reduce his fast food consumption to twice a week. I mean, ideally it would be down to 0, but you got to remember that we live in the real world, and not everybody can eat locally grown, magically organic, wonderful, unprocessed food. Okay, your clients have lives, and there are demands on their time, so you got to work with the patient. There is intervention terminology available, but you don't have to use it. I like to show you this because I think it gives you an idea of what you can do for patients. Sometimes you might feel a little bit limited, or you kind of get in a rut where you're doing the same thing over and over again. So I find sometimes looking at this to maybe be inspiring. So I don't know if you can see all of this very well, but you can see that your intervention could be providing just a general healthful diet. You may need to provide a texture-modified diet, a fat-modified diet, a mineral-modified diet, so on and so forth. And I've blown this up a little bit for you. You may want to have your patient taking a multivitamin mineral supplement, so on and so forth. So there's a lot we can do. So again, we're back to Jo, our patient who's just suffered a myocardial infarction. And when we look at our nutrition prescription that we would like to have him follow, there's a lot of things we could think about. And then we also have some goals that we might want to set with Jo to see about how we might be able to address some of his nutritional problems. So when we think about a nutrition prescription, would we want him on a low-fat diet, maybe a heart-healthy diet? We would certainly calculate his energy needs and maybe prescribe that for him. We'll talk about more how to do that in the next lecture. and then think about goals for him. So again, you may have your goals for him, but he may not be quite ready to do everything, or maybe he wants to do more than you kind of anticipated. So things that he might be able to do would be to limit fast food intake to no more than twice a week, limit soda intake to 1 can if he was drinking a lot of soda. Maybe an appropriate goal is a weight loss of 1 to 2 pounds a week. Those are just some ideas. So for the monitoring and evaluation process, we want to know if the intervention is working or not. So there are 2 types of notes. I've kind of referred to these earlier. You've got an initial note that you'll write, which has a lot of detail. You spend a lot of time in the assessment phase, focusing on figuring out what's important to you in terms of nutrition. And then a follow-up note, which is a much shorter note, and really you're just trying to see if your nutritional intervention is working or not. And if it is there something else you want to address? If it's not, how do you fix it to see if you can make it better? I think I basically just kind of told you all that stuff that's also on the slide. So going back to JO, we're in the monitoring and evaluation phase. What are we going to monitor for him? Well, we look back to our PES statement and we're going to monitor those signs and symptoms, right? So we would look, if we did a follow-up visit in a month or 3 months, we would look at his BMI. Has that gone down? Has he lost any weight? Things like this. If we had written down the fact that he was eating a lot of fast food as a sign or symptom, maybe we would look at that as well. And it's not that we couldn't have that in the initial PES statement, but we did kind of reference it as our etiology. So signs and symptoms are really, your jump start on your monitoring and evaluation plan. So here's an example of an ADIME note that I might write. I've got his assessment here. I've done some stuff that we haven't got to yet, but just to give you an idea of what my note might look like. We have a 47-year-old Hispanic male admitted status post. That means after myocardial infarction, MI. I have his anthropometric information there, and here are my comparative standards. So he is 172% plus or minus 10% of his ideal body weight. This is strange. Oh, I'm sorry. I can't read my own notes. Oh, this is terrible. I'm sorry. His ideal body weight is 172 pounds, plus or minus 10%. So he's about 137% of his ideal body weight. I'll show you how to calculate that shortly. He's about 100% of his usual body weight, meaning that he hasn't really lost weight, and maybe he hasn't gained much recently either. I'm still laughing at myself not being able to realize what I did there. Sorry. He's consuming 100% of meals, so that might be something. Again, if you've got somebody who's got a low appetite or issues with weight loss, this will be really important for them too. Estimated energy needs for weight maintenance. I used the Mifflin-St. Jeor equation with an activity factor of 1.2. All of that's going to be talked about in the next lecture. So my estimated needs for him are about roughly 2,500 calories per day. Estimated protein needs, we just use the RDA for protein, which is 0.8 grams per kilogram, and that gives me 85 grams per day. Estimated fluid needs, I used 1 mil per kcal, so that looks just like his energy prescription up there. Labs, if I had labs, which we didn't really talk about, but we will shortly. If he had any labs that were outside of normal limits, I would put them there. And again, just some more information about JO. He's sedentary and eats fast food for lunch most days. So the diagnosis that we came up with was excessive energy intake related to fast food consumption most days and sedentary lifestyle, as evidenced by weight gain of 35 pounds over 3 years, BMI of 32.8, he's obese, and patient self-report. Again, our etiology, really, fast food consumption most days is just very specific to this particular case study. We could certainly say, any other information that we would get from JO could possibly go there, but that's just what we're given right now. The intervention provided education on an 1,800 calorie heart healthy, or sometimes called cardiac diet. Why 1,800 calories when I think his needs are closer to 2,400? Well, we're going to start with that because we want to see a little bit of weight loss. That might be too strict, it might not be strict enough, but it's a good place to start. We encourage weekly weigh-ins and a target of 1 to 2 pounds per week of weight loss. The patient agreed to limit fast food intake to 2 days per week. The patient will also ask the doctor for an outpatient referral. That's to see the dietitian. I should have put that in that note. So that the dietitian can follow up with him and provide additional support for his weight loss goals. So for my M and my E, what are we going to monitor? We'll monitor the patient's weight to determine the rate of weight loss and his fast food consumption and outpatient follow-up. So that's what we came up with. So that's a very sort of brief introduction to the nutritional care process, which uses the ADIME format. Think of the assessment where you're building your case. Your diagnosis is a description of the problem and its cause. Intervention, what are you going to do as the nutrition professional, and how is the patient perhaps going to help you with that? Monitoring and evaluation, what are you going to look at the next time you see the patient? How do you judge whether or not your intervention is working? So with that, we're done with the videos for this unit. I hope they were helpful, and I'll see you in class.